Joe Frazier stated, you can map out a fight plan or a life plan. But when the action starts, you're down to your reflexes. That's where your road work shows. If you cheated on that in the dark of the morning, you're getting found out now under the bright lights. Boxing is a good analogy for leadership development because it's all about daily preparation. Even a person with natural talent has to prepare and train to become successful. One of this country's greatest leaders was a fan of boxing, President Theodore Roosevelt. In fact, one of his most famous quotes uses a boxing analogy. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbled, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes short again and again, and who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, and spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. Roosevelt, a boxer himself, was the ultimate man of action. Not only was he an effective leader, but he was one of the most flamboyant of all U.S. presidents. British historian Hugh Brogan described him as the ablest man to sit in the White House since Lincoln, the most vigorous since Jackson, and the most bookish since John Quincy.
From Tyler Bell, "Hey Seth, that works for us."
T.R. Roosevelt's nickname is remembered as an outspoken man of action and proponent of the vigorous life. While in the White House, he was known for regular boxing and judo sessions, challenging horseback rides and long, strenuous hikes. A French ambassador who visited Roosevelt used to tell about the time when he accompanied the president on a walk through the woods. When the two men came to the banks of a stream that was too deep to cross by foot, T.R. stripped off his clothes and expected the dignitary to do the same so that they could swim to the other side. Nothing was an obstacle to Roosevelt. At different times in his life, Roosevelt was a cowboy in the Wild West, an explorer and a big-game hunter, and a rough-riding cavalry officer in the Spanish-American War. His enthusiasm and stamina seemed boundless. As the vice presidential candidate in 1900, he gave 673 speeches and traveled 20,000 miles while campaigning for President McKinley. And years after his presidency, while preparing to deliver a speech in Milwaukee, Roosevelt was shot by a would-be assassin. With a broken rib and a bullet in his chest, Roosevelt insisted on delivering his one-hour speech before allowing himself to be taken to the hospital. Of all the leaders this nation has ever had, Roosevelt was one of the toughest, both physically and mentally. But he didn't start that way. America's cowboy president was born in Manhattan to a prominent, wealthy family. As a child, he was puny and sickly. He had debilitating asthma, possessed very poor eyesight, and was painfully thin. His parents weren't sure that he would survive. When he was 12, young Roosevelt's father told him, "You have the mind, but you do not have the body, and without the help of the body, the mind cannot go as far as it should. You must make the body," and make it he did. He lived by the law of process. T.R. began spending time every day building his body as well as his mind, and he did that for the rest of his life. He worked out with weights, hiked, ice skated, hunted, rode horseback, and boxed. Roosevelt said, "I had a great admiration for men who were fearless, who could hold their own in the world, and I had a great desire to be like them." By the time T.R. graduated from Harvard, he was like them, and he was ready to tackle the world of politics. Roosevelt didn't become a leader overnight either. His road to the presidency was one of slow, continual growth. As he served in various positions, ranging from New York City Police Commissioner to President of the United States, he kept learning and growing, and in time, he became a strong leader. Under his leadership, the United States emerged as a world power, developed a first-class navy, and built the Panama Canal. He negotiated peace between Russia and Japan, winning a Nobel Peace Prize in the process. And when people questioned TR's leadership, he had first become president when McKinley was assassinated, he campaigned and was reelected by the largest majority of any president up to this time. On January 6, 1919, at his home in New York, Theodore Roosevelt died in his sleep. Then Vice President Marshall said, "Death had to take him sleeping, for if Roosevelt had been awake, there would have been a fight." And when they removed him from his bed, they found a book under his pillow. Up to the very last, TR was striving to learn and improve himself. He was still practicing the law process. If you want to be a leader, the good news is that